So how do the container blackberries look? Well, looking pretty doggone good. Got some problems, but looking pretty good. Check it out. Well, let me show you what I got going on here. These are my blackberries in wicking tubs. If you haven't been following me, this is the second year for them. Last year they were huge. This year I had a lot of damage from the Texas freeze on these Primark Freedom berries. They just did not handle that extremely cold weather, and I've lost a lot of canes. You'll see a lot of this. Now that's not a dead cane. That's that same cane. It's got some growth on top of it, but it's just not anywhere what it should have been. As you can see on the ground, a lot of canes, a lot of dead stuff I trimmed out. You can see it laying everywhere. I had a lot of damage. I did a video on it, showed you trimming out some of it, and even after the video had a lot of damage. So let me show you what's going on now. And I've got one that I've got a problem with, and I'll show you what the problem is and tell you what I think it is, but I'm not sure. But right now I just noticed I've got one that needs to be pinched off. Now these are in containers. My wire, my trellis wires, I've got one trellis wire about 18 inches, 20 inches above the container, and one about 20 inches above that. And what I have been doing is, even with the top wire, I've been pinching it off. So I'm gonna try to pinch that off. That's a little big. Normally there you go. And that's just taking the top, the growing shoot off the top of it. And that could be, if you're doing it, you could propagate that. I've never had good experience propagating in the summer, and it's getting pretty warm. Today's going to be low 80s. Got a brisk wind. I apologize if that's going to be a problem for y'all hearing. But now this one, now that I pinched it off, it will start growing a lot of lateral growth right here and right here. That will start growing a lot of lateral growth, which is where most of your berries are made. So these tall canes are from last year. All these shorter canes are from this year, and you'll see again that I don't have a lot of tall canes. I lost a ton of production this year from the freeze. Now this one here, this one's got issues, and I don't know exactly what it is. I had two nice canes coming up, and both of them died. I don't know what it was. I have a feeling either the wind got in there and it wasn't sturdy enough, whatever, the wind marked back and forth to where it just basically broke off. I mean, I pulled it off, but there was just really nothing holding it. It looked like, at first, it looked like it got too much water. It looked like it was drowning. So I cut the water off to it, drained it out actually, pushed the tub over and let it drain out some, because I just really thought that's what the problem was. So anyway, I don't know what that was that did this, but I've got two canes, basically. That one and that one, nice canes, this year's canes that just started looking terrible and just never came out of it. Just went ahead and died. So I just now pulled them both completely out, and we'll see what happens to them. I'm assuming, or I'm expecting, that it will start growing some more canes. Now that those aren't growing, it will start sending up some more shoots. It's already sent up one shoot there, and we got some shoots coming up off that lateral. That's a dead one. That's one that I half dead from last year. That's starting to put out more. But I expect somewhere in here we're going to start getting some more canes. But I have pinched off a number of these. I mean, this should be a hedge. This should be just a solid, huge hedge. and it's not, and it's all because of that freeze. But I've pinched off a lot of these. That's the new growth. That's all this year. Is probably about 3 weeks growth. It doesn't, once they start coming up, it does not take them long to get up to where I'm going to cut them, trim them, pinch them off, and that's right at the top of that wire. And then even after, if you pinch them at the top of the wire, they're going to grow a little bit more in length. They won't grow any more from that end. You can see where I pinched it off there. Pinched off that end. They won't grow any more from that end, but the cane itself will grow a little bit more. But then you'll start getting that lateral growth, and that's what you want. And that's why you pinch off the tops. I know it kind of hurts. You know those things can get 10 feet long, and you don't really want to pinch them at 13, 14, at 3 feet long. But if you look at the writings from the guys that developed these, they say pinch them off at about 18 inches, either 12 or 18 inches. I mean, way down there. And I don't know, I can't do that. They say pinch them off down there. Really, it's forming more of just a hedge. And so I don't know, that's not what I do. I just can't bring myself to pinch them off that low. Anyway, so I've got a lot of bees on them. Now this plant here has got to be different. It can't be a Primark Freedom. The growth habit is different. It did not suffer any damage in the freeze, none whatsoever. I didn't lose any cane off of it. It's still blooming while the rest of these Freedoms are not. It had the bloom is more purple than the Primark Freedom blooms. They were a little bit more white. So I don't know what it is, but it's not a Primark Freedom. It might very well be a Ouachita. I'll show you a Ouachita in just a second. And this could very well be a Ouachita because they have similar growth habits, and Ouachita is still blooming right now. So it could very well be that. So anyway, you know, it's disappointing a little bit because of the freeze. I should have a huge crop this year of blackberries, but my spring crop from last year's canes is going to be very disappointing, and it's because of the freeze. Now, this year's Primacane crop, in other words, these new shoots that are coming up right now, they're going to start putting out blooms and berries in about a month for they call it a fall crop. It's really more of an everbearing crop. In other words, it'll start where these will bloom and put out blackberries in, last year's canes will put out blackberries probably within, well, starting usually around June 1st. Then those canes will die because they've already done everything they're going to do. And then these new canes that are coming up, like the one I just pinched off, it will start producing berries, start getting blooms of producing berries probably in August. So, you know, it's kind of neat to have kind of some berries throughout the year. I like that. So that's a look at these. And again, this one on the end, I don't know what it is, but it is going to be loaded down with berries. And it looks like my other Ouachita, which I'll show you in just a second. These are my Ponca blackberries that I planted this year. They are doing great. I mean, they look really, really good. Starting to produce a few blooms. Now that doesn't mean that they're a primacane. In fact, I won't know. I haven't read anything that tells me whether they're a primacane or a floricane. I think they're a floricane. But you can see they put out a nice pink bloom. And I've got a lot, not a lot, I've got several of those. And I believe it's because those are the small canes from last year. You know, when I bought it, they were 10, 12 inches tall, and that's the canes that were available from last year, and that's why they're putting out. That's why they're putting out this year. So, but they're looking good. I mean, I'm already getting shoots. That's this year's cane. That is a primer cane. I've got several more. Let's see, that are putting out canes from the roots. This year's cane, that's what that is. That is last year's right there. But all this growth here is this year's growth. So let me show you the other one, the Ouachita. I'll walk up here, but I'll fast forward for you. Okay, this is the Ouachita that I planted last year as an experiment in an earth box. And again, this one is blooming out when the one on the far northern side that I showed you is blooming. It's about the same color blooms, and I think that one over there might be a Ouachita. But anyway, I know this one is, and it has got blooms and little future berries all over it. So this little dude's gonna be real prolific. The earth box is, you know, if you're looking for a way to grow something, the earth box is something that's gonna be around for, the box itself is gonna last 10, 15 years, maybe more. Some say they've got earth boxes 20 years old. But all this growth is from last year, because Ouachita is a floor cane variety. It doesn't bloom or fruit on this year's canes. So all these are last year's canes, giving me some good berries. Now, I mean, I'm gonna have 200, 300, 400 berries on this one plant. I mean, and Ouachita makes a real sweet, real nice, big berry. So I don't know whether you can see it or not. There's a lot of bees. I'm not gonna get up in there, but there's some growth. I don't know whether you can see that or not, but there's some growth right there. That's this year's growth. Got one down here that's growing up from the bottom of the earth box, shaded a lot by all that top growth. But so I'm going to move this. This is in the wrong place. It's right beside shading out my okra down there that I've got planted in those wood chips. So I'm going to move this as soon as the bees are off of it later on tonight. Move it to a different location, and then I'm going to prop it up with some improvised tomato cages. And so, because all these limbs are touching the ground now, they're so full of berries, so full of blooms, and it's just they got too much on them. So I'm gonna have to prop them up, and they will love me for it, I'm sure. So that's my blackberry crop. My garden is doing well. I'll show you that in another video, maybe later this week. But my berries are doing good, you know, considering the horrible freeze damage I had. I'm still kind of reeling over that. Got some freeze damage on trees that I haven't shown you, and some trees are just not coming back, and I'll show you that in another video. But the rest of the garden up here, I'm not going to show you right now, but everything is looking nice, and we'll do a video on this soon. And what I meant to say a while ago about the earth box, it lasts 10 or 15 years. These tubs, and those blue tubs that I've got the other berries planted in, Mr. Leon says they're good for 5 to 7 years. So at some point I'm going to have to trade out all those blue tubs, because they're not going to last the life of the blackberry, where an earth box certainly might. Same with grapes. I'm thinking about replanting those grapes I did the other day. Yeah, I've got 4 earth boxes left. I'm thinking about planting them in earth boxes, simply because grow bags are only good for about 2, maybe 3 years. Wicking tubs are only good for 5 to 7 years, but earth boxes will last 10, 15, maybe 20 years. So that's going to be the life of a blackberry plant anyway, somewhere between 8 and 15 years, they say. So that kind of inspires me to maybe at some point, when it comes time to replant, when those blue tubs start to fail, it could very well be that I buy some more earth boxes, simply because they're going to last. They're going to be there. So, all right, that's it. We're gone.